Welcome to It's All Recruiting, the show that looks at everything through the lens of recruiting. I'm your host, Jim Stroud.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, here's your host with the most, Jim Stroud, with another exciting episode of the It's All Recruiting podcast. Yay! All right, all this week I have been at SourceCon, celebrating the 10th anniversary of SourceCon. It's a great, magical, wonderful place full of great, magical, wonderful people. A lot of the topics that have come up here have been around technology, and of course the future of recruiting is always a hot topic here. When we discuss the future of recruiting, one thing that always comes up is chatbots. What are they doing? How are they be affecting the future? So much controversy, so much questions. Fortunately for me and for you, dear listener, there are some people here who want to discuss and share what the future will bring to recruiting in terms of chatbots, and they are the good people of Wade and Wendy. I met them here at SourceCon, and I begged and pleaded for them to do this podcast. They were gracious, so gracious to join me. And so I will let them introduce themselves. Hello, kind people. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bailey Newland. I'm part of Wade and Wendy on the content and marketing side. Very excited to be here. This is our first SourceCon. We've had amazing conversations and learned a lot from a lot of people here. So thanks for having us, Jim.
No problem.
And I'm Dave Meckelberg. I'm the Chief of Staff here at Wade and Wendy, and always happy to be with the legendary Jim Stroud.
Oh, that's $20 I owe you. Right. I'll email it to you.
Yes. Learn something new, yeah.
Perfect.
Now, let me paint the scene for people who can't see us because we're doing a podcast. We're in a quiet, secluded spot. We have at our table some beer, some homemade bread, and some jelly beans. That sort of sums up the eclectic
All the essentials
atmosphere.
for a great conversation.
That is so true. That is so true. So, Wade and Wendy, let me ask you this before we get started. What exactly is Wade and Wendy? What do you guys do?
Sure. So we are an AI-powered conversation platform built specifically for the recruiting process. So we deploy automated conversations across, the entire recruiting process. So, if you think about it, recruiters are having so many conversations. So you're talking with the hiring manager to get those role requirements. You're talking internally about what your sourcing strategy is, like how are we going to put this on our job boards. Then you're interviewing and you're screening and you're gathering like follow-ups and
Yep.
all of that whatnot. So we're just trying to streamline that process. And Dave, if you want to talk about a little bit of kind of where we are with our current product, Wendy.
Yeah, so our first product to market is Wendy, and Wendy is focused on really the first sort of engagement after the application process. So somebody applies to a job online or hits the application process in any way, and Wendy is an automated first round screen that has an engaging conversation with the candidate and then delivers insights to the hiring team that lets them focus their time on really getting to know and engage with the right candidates.
Okay, so Wade and Wendy. So I guess Wendy is a bot that talks to job seekers, and Wade talks to recruiters.
So
is that how that works?
It's a great question. So Wendy talks to people that are inbound applicants. So people that apply to the role or hit the application process in any way. They chat with Wendy, and then Wendy delivers those insights to the hiring team, and then helps run the process downstream. So things like scheduling, collecting feedback. Wendy is your sort of recruiting manager, as it were.
Yeah, so Wendy's just an addition to your team, if you
Okay.
think about it that way. So she's interacting with clients. She's also, helping manage the workflow internally. And then Wade, on the other hand, is sort of a career guide for candidates. So what Wendy is to recruiters, Wade is to candidates. So if you apply to a job and it's just like not the right fit, we can, introduce you to Wade, and he can like surface a lot of jobs that might be a little bit better fit for you.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now when I mention robots and jobs, people always get nervous, like, the robots taking my jobs away. Should recruiters be afraid of chatbots in the future? What do you guys think?
So the question I manage our hiring, so I get asked this question all the time. Am I scared of losing my job? What I always say is think about the amount of time that you're spending on the phone with people that have applied to a role, or people that you're just trying to figure out exactly sort of where you stand, and then think about the time that you spent on the phone really getting to know somebody and really making the time to dive deep into what your company's about, where they would fit into sort of how things are happening. We think the first part of that process, the sort of, nuts and bolts, getting to know you, getting to understand just a little bit about, is this even, the right conversation to be having, should be automated and taken out of your hands. That way you as the recruiter can focus on, the things that make recruiting human, like actually getting to know people and actually bringing them into the fold and making sure that they are welcomed in sort of warm arms into the team.
Nice. Okay. So I guess I get from that recruiters should not be afraid. They should embrace the chatbots, making their life easier.
I think there's a stat. I think it's Monster maybe that pulled this, but 63% of recruiters' time is spent on the phone. So just finding a better way to spend that time and giving them the freedom to allocate their bandwidth how they choose, rather than the phone screens eating up their entire time.
Being held hostage by the phone screen.
Yeah, I mean, I see Dave on the phone all the time. So, I mean, I know Wendy's really helped his kind of manage his workflow.
We use Wendy ourselves. I'm still gainfully employed.
True.
And my life is infinitely
He's not going
better.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so let me try to get a future view. So, say 10 years into the future, or maybe not even 10 years. Let's say 5 years into the future. How do chatbots and AI play along with recruiters 5 years from now? What are your predictions?
It's an awesome question. So, the first pieces of the process right now are the pieces that are sort of getting attacked with chatbots, if you will. The places where I think there's still a lot of room to grow, and the more sort of engagement that chatbots get across the sort of entire employee life cycle. So not just sort of managing, the initial screen or managing the sort of conversion and, the sort of FAQ sort of bots that help convert people into actual candidates. It's moving further downstream and having a conversational sort of experience as you're an employee. So somebody that grows with you, that can point you in the right direction of how to navigate your career within an organization, how to navigate feedback, how to collect that feedback, and then how that ties into the entire process from I get an email from somebody that says I should work at this job to I'm sitting next to Bailey working with her 10 years down the road at some giant like Acme Corporation. That entire sort of cycle, there's so many touch points that can and should be sort of automated and will grow alongside employees in the labor market at large.
Interesting. Now we had a roundtable discussion about the future of sourcing and robots and AI, and the question came up: do we think that people will try to game the system on chatbots? The same way someone may stuff their resume with keywords, will they try to manipulate a conversation with a chatbot to get it to a recruiter's attention? Do you think that'll happen?
It's an awesome question.
It's a great question.
So it's still the early stages. So obviously there's a book yet to be written. But I will say from what we've seen from our engagement across our client base right now, people are disproportionately honest. People can tell that if they're being asked, how many years experience do you have, or do you have at least this amount of experience? People don't lie. People tell the truth. And we confirm this later in the process. So there is an element of people, feeling comfortable confiding in, somebody that's not judging them, and somebody that they have and kind of engage with on their own time. Over time, the reality is these are learning systems. So the keywords of today, will become the past days of tomorrow.
Sure.
So not only do tools change, but also, the way that people speak about their experiences change. Because these are learning systems, they can adapt and kind of stay ahead of the curve on people trying to game it.
So obviously the learning part is, I think, going to be able to combat that. But then if you have to think about it, so people are applying to jobs and want this job. We haven't seen any instances so far where people are trying to game the system or they're trying to break Wendy or anything like that. I mean, they're answering these questions thoughtfully and honestly. So our average length of engagement for a Wendy chat is 31 minutes.
Okay.
So people are really taking the time to open up and share about their personal experiences and not just the skills that they have, but how they've grown those skills over time. And we're learning like little anecdotes about like times that they've learned a new skill or kind of like really interesting information about where they want to go with their career.
Good conversation design should
good
push you towards being
conversation,
honest. And just being honest.
That's interesting that you're saying these people are conversing with the chatbot 30 minutes. So that tells me that people are really comfortable talking to the chatbots?
Yeah,
and they don't feel intimidated?
conversation design and setting expectations really seriously. So when people are invited to a chat with Wendy, that occurs via email right now. That could change in the future based on, like our clients' requests. But that email sets expectations and it says, hey, look, this is Wendy. This is the next step. She's an AI chatbot. Like, she wants to learn about you. This is your opportunity to share about yourself and put your best foot forward for this job. And candidates really appreciate that from what we've seen so far. Like, they really, really appreciate the opportunity to expand upon what they can do in specific relation to the role.
Wow. It's good that candidates seem to like it so much then, because a chatbot could talk with them 24/7, 365.
So our like power stat is 40% of the chats that we have happen off hours. So over the weekend, late at night, over holidays,
That's
things like that.
Yeah.
Because people really can engage on their own time, and that's the coolest.
Yeah, that's specifically really cool for so many jobs. People don't work 9 to 5. I mean, it's 2017. That's only going to increase, working odd hours. I mean, so the ability to engage on their own time is a really key component of what we can do, I think.
Wow. So I'm thinking in terms of process. So, like, if I'm a candidate and would I go to say a job board, see a job, go to the company's page. I'm looking at a job, and then the chatbot will come up and say, "Hey, can I talk to you about an opportunity?" Or does it happen after I apply?
So right now it's inbound. So after someone hits your ATS, we get a notification and we deploy. In the future, we'll be able to sit on top of job descriptions and like give and kind of sell that more sourcing component where you're selling a job and you're reaching out. We can do that eventually, but that's further down the road.
There's a two-sided element to the conversation, which is, any good recruiter will tell you that you're having the conversation both ways. It's both informing and screening and understanding. So, right now we're focused on the latter part. It's screening with a little bit of informing. So when you're talking with Wendy right now, there's an element of information about, hey, this is the job you applied for. Here's what you're going to be doing, giving you a better sort of clear sense. In the future, it's not, technologically we're really there in being able to offer the other side, which is much more of the sort of informational side. So, hey, I'm thinking about applying to this job, like this is what I've done, but I don't know, what do you think? And actually being able to sort of respond, hey, this is a great fit, or maybe not this one, but try this one. And the more that we have those conversations, the more that, we learn what people are looking for. And also what companies are looking for, and candidates can learn what people are looking for.
So when we kind of built out our product roadmap, it made sense to start with that initial screening process so we could learn and really power the rest of our platform for the months and years to come.
Interesting. So it's somebody who's not here at SourceCon, and they had more questions and they wanted to get involved with Wade and Wendy and sort of see what's going on for themselves. How can they get in contact with you?
They can reach out to Bailey. Myself, that's me, Bailey. And it's very easy to remember. It's just Bailey, Bailey, at wadeandwendy.ai.
Written out, WADEANDWENDY.
.ai. Just shoot us an email. We'll respond as quick as we can, and we'll set something up.
Okay. Operators are standing by, no doubt.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Jim, thank you so much.
Yeah. Always a pleasure.
2017!
Thank you so much for listening. If you were not there, then I would be here talking to myself. So thank you for that. If you would, check out the links in the podcast description because they are there for you. Finally, if you love what you heard, hate what you heard, or not quite sure what you just heard, I want to know about it. Connect with me on Twitter at Jim Stroud, or LinkedIn, or Google+, or pretty much anywhere you find me online. I'm everywhere. Okay, enough of that. Until next time, one last word spoken 3 times to my people at Randstad Sourceright. Love, love, love.